Lovelings, it's me, Alicen, and I know it's been a while because I needed to get my head back in order, because how ironic and counterproductive would that be if I'm running a channel about healing your mind but damaging my mind in the process? So I took some very necessary time to recoup and repair, and here we are. Now, being me, I get really excited a lot and I want to share stuff as it comes to me, like stream of consciousness style, just be like, oh, and I just realized this, oh, and I just learned this, and oh my God, I just figured this out. But with this topic, which is cults and cultism, I have, and this is not bragging, this is just facts, like I have a base level of knowledge that is much greater about this topic than the average person who watches my videos. I have the responsibility of making sure we're all on the same page before we continue forward. That said, something I should have covered from the very beginning of this project, not even just this channel, but the blog, like years ago, I should have defined unminding a long time ago. So, better late than never, I guess. So here we go. For me, how I define it is undoing, unlearning, etc. Insert any synonym for deconstructing and getting to the root of the damage done to you by cultism, by a high demand group, by a cultic relationship, a narcissistic cult leader, a narcissist, any damage that falls under the umbrella of cult. And that's a vast, vast umbrella. And so when I talk about unminding, I mean understanding deeply and thoroughly how the cult impacted you and how you wound up in it in the first place. Even if you were born and raised into one, that may betray a family dynamic that made your parents less concerned about your safety or less concerned about their own safety, which then they modeled to you and you may now carry around. Wow, there was a lot I wanted to express there that I really hope came across clearly. So yeah, unminding means getting to the root of how you wound up in a cultic situation, whether by your own choice or by your caretaker's choice, and whether you find your cultic mindset continuing to manifest itself in different ways in your friendships, in your romantic relationships. And then after you've done the unminding work of identifying the how and the why, then you can do the reminding work, see what I did there, of rebuilding, or for some people, building from scratch, not even rebuilding. Creating with agency and with love and with awareness a healthier mind space for yourself. Unminding is the prelude to reminding. And so when I say unminding, usually I'm talking about both. Because you really can't have one without the other. Like if you're unminding in the sense that you're just tearing yourself apart, you're just nitpicking and criticizing and breaking yourself down and constantly trying to fix yourself, but without actually feeling or getting better, that's more self-harm and self-punishing, which is not what I mean when I talk about unminding. When I talk about it, I mean unminding with the ultimate goal of transitioning your mind from a dark and traumatized place to a safe haven. So some examples of what the unminding process can entail. When you're doing your unminding process, your cult recovery process, you'll have to look at parts of yourself that can be very scary, very humbling to look at. For instance, you might come to realize that you have a lot of pride. A lot of what might drive your fundamentalism is a refusal to admit to being wrong. And at first glance, it might look like just a straight up character flaw. Oh, you're arrogant. I definitely in the past have been really harsh on people who couldn't admit to being wrong. Like when I first started being a cult educator and critiquing certain dynamics I would observe in certain social contexts, when people would lash out at me for making them feel called out, I would lash out at them right back and say, well, no, you need to learn how to accept it when you're wrong about something. And I couldn't understand what was so hard about accepting that something you're doing isn't working or isn't right or even ethical. Then, as I continued to learn more about the way the mind works and what kinds of things can make someone wind up being a fundamentalist, I realized a lot of people who struggle with pride are actually at the root of it struggling with fear. So let's say when they were growing up, perhaps if they were wrong about something, they would get beat by their caretaker, or let's say in childhood, being wrong entailed some sort of existential punishment, like going to hell. Then it makes a lot more sense why some people can't simply admit that they're wrong about something. They still carry this sense that the stakes are so extremely high that they have to do anything and everything they can to stay on the side of being right. Once you understand what actually is motivating a lot of cognitive distortions, it becomes a lot easier to sympathize with and work with cult survivors, and or with yourself if you're recognizing these qualities in yourself. The unminding process can be extremely uncomfortable. I've had to admit things about myself that are mortifying, that are so embarrassing, like the worst character flaws that you love to point out in other people but don't want to point out in yourself. I've been there, I'm still there. That is the nature of recovering from any long-term behavioral pattern. Inevitably, it is going to entail something about you that needs to change, because it's at the point where you start getting into serious situations like a cult, it's probably not just hurting you, it's probably also hurting your loved ones. And something that I say often, and I can't stress this enough, I will keep saying it till the day I die. If you have a problem that only affects you, not getting help is understandable. But if you have a problem that affects other people, not getting help is unethical. So unminding, in my opinion, is not just something that will ultimately feel good and help you with the whole cult thing. It's an ethical responsibility to your loved ones to recognize it when you've got a shortcoming in your mind space in some sense that damages relationships with other people and damages your ability to provide for yourself or for anyone who depends on you, and so on and so on. In short, when I talk about unminding, I'm basically talking about the cult recovery process, but not just cult recovery in learning how to be in the world again after cult trauma, which is what most people mean when they talk about cult recovery. I'm talking about identifying and healing and working through the qualities within yourself that led you to cult involvement in the first place, or continue to lead you to cult involvement or cultism. So another thing I will say before I close off this video is unminding isn't a package I'm selling to people. It's not like a thing that's a complete whole concept that I own and monopolize and disseminate to people as I see fit. It's like my ongoing understanding of what works best in the cult recovery process, and it's only stuff that I've personally tried. I wouldn't tell you guys to do something that I don't know from experience works or not. I guess the most accurate way to say all this is it's what I've learned about how to recover from a cult from my own cult recovery and from other cult survivors' stories, and it's an ongoing collection of knowledge and recommendations and suggestions, and whenever I find that I've contradicted myself, I will write a statement and say that I'm taking back something I said in the past or I'm correcting myself. And so I just want you to know that unminding as a whole thing that I present through this project is coming from the heart. It's coming from the part of me that really wants to heal not only just myself, but anyone else who's gone through this pain, because I know that this pain is so brutal at times. And I can honestly say I am no longer a miserable person. I am not walking around like dissociating constantly like I used to. I no longer meet the diagnostic criterion for PTSD or C-PTSD, which is rad, and I do credit the unminding process with that fact. If you support what I do, and if you want to keep up with these epiphanies as I have them, and whatever else I share on this channel, then please like, share, and subscribe. I said it with a straight face this time. Okay, great. I might just be becoming a real YouTuber. I'm very happy to share what I learn with you all as I learn it, and I thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm already looking forward to making the next video. Love you, lovelings.